The Aurelius sits atop the 57th floor of a black glass tower on Park Avenue, a restaurant so exclusive that reservations require 3 references and a net worth verification. The dining room floats above Manhattan like a temple to excess, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing a carpet of lights that stretches from the Hudson to the East River and beyond, a kingdom of commerce rendered in electricity and ambition. Tonight, the Vandermeer private dining room, named after the Dutch shipping magnate who once owned the building, hosts 8 men whose combined wealth could purchase a small European nation. The table is set with Christoffel silver, Bernardo china, and Riedel crystal, so thin it seems to tremble with the weight of its own elegance. A single orchid arrangement, flown in from Thailand this morning, serves as the centerpiece. Cost, $1,200. The men haven't noticed it. Elena Vasquez, 26, moves through the room like a shadow. Her black uniform blends into the mahogany paneling. Her dark hair is pulled back severely. Her face carries the careful blankness of someone who has learned that invisibility is a form of survival. She refills water glasses with mechanical precision, 3/4 full, ice positioned at 11 o'clock, napkin dabbed once beneath the rim. These are the rituals of high service, the choreography of wealth that she has memorized like scripture. But behind her dark eyes, a different mind operates, a mind that catalogs everything. The vintage of the Petrus being poured, 2009, approximately $14,000 a bottle. The Patek Philippe on the wrist of the man at the head of the table, a Nautilus, reference 5711, discontinued and now worth 3 times its original retail. The micro-expressions that flicker across faces when numbers are mentioned. Elena learned to read rooms long before she learned to serve them. At Columbia, where she completed her PhD in financial economics at 24, youngest in the program's history, her dissertation on behavioral markers and fraudulent fund management had been called revolutionary by her advisor. The Federal Reserve had cited it. 3 academic journals had published excerpts. Bloomberg had wanted an interview, and then, 3 months before graduation, the financial sector imploded. Hiring freezes spread like contagion. 400 applications became 17 interviews, became 0 offers. Unmarketable, said the job market that had promised everything and delivered nothing. She carries a plate of seared foie gras to a man who doesn't look up. His conversation continues over her extended arm, as if she were a piece of furniture, an extension of the building's infrastructure, rather than a person with thoughts and dreams and a mind that could dismantle his investment thesis in under 5 minutes. The returns are unprecedented, 37% annually, compounded. My analysts have never seen anything like it. Elena's hand doesn't tremble as she sets down the plate, but something in her chest tightens. 37%, compounded, annually. The numbers burn through her mind like acid through paper. She retreats to the service station, a narrow alcove hidden behind a silk screen painted with scenes of cherry blossoms and distant mountains. A Japanese artist, 18th century, worth more than Elena will earn in her lifetime. Here, in this coffin of space between the kitchen and the dining room, she allows herself to breathe. Her phone shows 3 missed calls from Mount Sinai Hospital, her mother's room, the bills that arrive weekly like clockwork. $47,000 this month alone for the experimental treatment, the specialists, the round-the-clock monitoring. Insurance covers the basics. Insurance doesn't cover hope. The apartment she shares with 2 other women in Washington Heights, where she sleeps on a mattress on the floor because she sold her bed frame to cover last month's minimum payment. The commute, 2 hours each way on the A train, standing room only, her feet aching before her shift even begins. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who once presented her research to the Federal Reserve Board in a room not unlike this one. Powerful men, expensive suits, decisions worth billions. Dr. Elena Vasquez, whose mathematical models predicted the 2008 collapse 6 months before Lehman Brothers fell, whose committee had called her work once in a generation. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who now earns $4.75 an hour, plus tips to refill water glasses for men, who earn that much in the time it takes to blink. She touches the small silver pendant at her throat, her mother's, given on the day Elena defended her dissertation. Her mother had been healthy then, had clapped from the back row with tears streaming down her face. Mi hija brillante, she had whispered, my brilliant daughter. Now her mother lies in a hospital bed, her body ravaged by a disease that doesn't care about brilliance or sacrifice or love. And Elena pours wine for billionaires and pretends she doesn't understand the conversations happening around her. Through the silkscreen, she hears the conversation continue, names she recognizes, sums that make her stomach clench. And beneath it all, something else, something wrong. She doesn't know it yet, but in approximately 90 minutes, her entire life will change. The Invisible Woman is about to become the most important person in this room. The double doors swing open with the weight of ceremony, the hushed sound of well-oiled hinges and expensive wood. Marcus Sterling, 52, enters like a man accustomed to rooms rearranging themselves around him. Tall, silver-haired, with the kind of angular features that photograph well in Forbes profiles and Bloomberg interviews. His suit is Brioni. Elena recognizes the cut, the subtle sheen of fabric that costs more than her annual salary. His shoes are John Lobb bespoke, the leather so soft it doesn't crease when he walks. His watch, a Vacheron, Constantin Overseas, platinum case, approximately $160,000, catches the light as he gestures to his assistant. Sterling Capital Management, $14 billion in assets under management, drawn from pension funds and sovereign wealth and family offices across 6 continents. Known on Wall Street as the Oracle of Greenwich for his seemingly prescient market calls, the man who shorted real estate in 2007, who went long on gold in 2019, who somehow always seemed to know what was coming before it arrived. His fund has never had a down year, not in 2008 when the world collapsed, not in 2020 when the pandemic sent markets into freefall, not ever. The financial press calls it genius. Some whisper it's luck. No one has ever suggested it might be something else entirely. Behind him walks Dr. Raymond Kessler, 61, Sterling's chief investment officer and the man who handles the technical presentations. He's a slight figure with wire-rimmed glasses and the nervous energy of someone perpetually calculating probabilities, running numbers, checking his work. He carries a leather portfolio embossed with the Sterling Capital logo, a golden eagle clutching a compass, symbolizing vision and direction. The logo alone cost $400,000 to design. Marcus Sterling. Gentlemen, I trust you've reviewed the prospectus. He takes his seat at the head of the table, the position of power, naturally. Elena approaches with the wine list. Sterling waves her away without looking. Marcus Sterling, Cantide, Macallan. 25. Neat. And bring the bottle. Elena nods, her face betraying nothing. $1,700 for a bottle he'll drink half of and leave, more than she makes in a week. The men around the table represent sovereign wealth funds, pension systems, family offices. Their presence here tonight signals intent, serious capital seeking, serious returns. The amounts being discussed would fund small countries. Heinrich Weber, German accent, precise. We represent the Rhineland-Westphalen Pension Consortium, 400,000 retirees depending on prudent allocation. Your fund's performance is remarkable, Mr. Sterling. Perhaps too remarkable. A slight tension enters the room. Sterling's smile doesn't waver. Marcus Sterling. Dr. Kessler has brought our complete audit documentation, certified by Anderson & Price, reviewed by the SEC quarterly. Our methodology is proprietary, but our results are a matter of public record. Kessler opens the leather portfolio, sliding glossy-bound documents across the table. Elena, returning with the Macallan, catches a glimpse of the cover page. Sterling Capital Growth Fund. Institutional investor presentation. Confidential. She pours 2 fingers of whiskey into a crystal glass. Her hand is steady. Her mind is not. James Rothbury, British, aristocratic. The Crown Estate trustees have expressed interest in expanding our alternative allocation. Your track record suggests immunity to market conditions that we find compelling. Marcus Sterling. Not immunity, Lord Rothbury. Superior intelligence. We trade on information asymmetry. Legal, of course, just faster, deeper, more sophisticated than the competition. Sterling reaches for his glass. His hand brushes Elena's wrist, the briefest contact. He pulls back as if touched by something unclean. Marcus Sterling, con to D. To Elena, dismissive. Keep the change, peasant. He tosses a $100 bill on her tray. The word hangs in the air. Peasant, spoken with the casual cruelty of a man who has never questioned his position in the hierarchy of the world. The other men chuckle, not with malice necessarily, but with the comfortable assurance of wealth that has never been threatened, position that has never been questioned. Elena takes the bill. Her face remains empty, but something has shifted behind her eyes, something cold and precise and calculating. Elena, quietly. Thank you, sir. She retreats. The men return to their discussion, their presentation, their billions. They have already forgotten she exists, but Elena remembers everything, and she has noticed something in those glossy pages, something that doesn't add up, something that, if she's right, could bring this entire tower of money crashing down. Elena stands in the narrow alcove, her back pressed against the cool wall. Through the silk screen, she can see the presentation continuing. Dr. Kessler stands at a portable display, clicking through slides, charts, graphs, numbers cascading down like digital waterfalls. Her mind works without her permission, the way a musician's fingers find chords or a chess master sees patterns 10 moves ahead. This is what she was trained to do, what she excelled at before the world decided her skills were unmarketable, before the economy collapsed and took her future with it. Pattern recognition, statistical anomaly detection, the subtle mathematics of deception that most people never learn to see. The presentation shows monthly returns for the past 15 years, a parade of numbers that most observers would see as merely impressive. Elena sees something else entirely. She watches the figures scroll past, and her photographic memory captures each one like a camera shutter, clicking. 2.3%, 2%, 2.4%, 2.8%, 2.5%, 2.8%, 2.4%, 2.7%, too consistent. The alarm bells begin to ring in her mind, soft at first, then building. Her dissertation had cataloged the statistical fingerprints of fraud across 73 documented Ponzi schemes and 47 investment manipulation cases. The first chapter had been dedicated to this exact phenomenon, the impossible smoothness of fabricated returns. Legitimate investment results follow what mathematicians call a normal distribution with fat tails. They cluster around an average but show natural variance, peaks and valleys, the mathematics of chaos and market psychology, of human behavior and global events and the thousand small accidents that make up economic reality. Sterling's returns show no valleys, not one down month in 15 years. A standard deviation of 0.7 when legitimate hedge funds average 3.2 or higher. The statistical probability of such consistency is infinitesimal. Her models had calculated it at 0.003%, effectively zero. Either Marcus Sterling had discovered how to predict the market with perfect accuracy, or he was fabricating his returns entirely. Dr. Kessler, from the presentation. Our proprietary algorithm identifies market inefficiencies before they become apparent to traditional analysis. The technical details are protected intellectual property, but the results speak for themselves. Elena moves closer to the screen, pretending to check the watercaraffes on the sideboard. The presentation slide shows a detailed breakdown of portfolio allocation. She scans the numbers and freezes. The percentages don't sum to 100. They sum to 97.3, a small error, one that most people would never notice, buried in a dense table on page 47. But in a professional presentation to institutional investors representing billions in capital, such an error would be unthinkable. Documents like this pass through compliance teams, legal review, auditor verification. Every number is checked and cross-checked. A basic arithmetic error surviving that gauntlet is statistically improbable, unless the numbers were fabricated, assembled hastily from different sources, cobbled together by people more focused on narrative than mathematics, consistent in their broad strokes, impressive returns, diversified allocation, sophisticated strategy, but betraying their artificial construction in the details that no one thought to check. Elena's heart begins to race, her pulse visible at her throat. She has seen this before, in case studies, in historical analyses of collapsed funds, in the forensic autopsies of financial crimes that destroyed thousands of lives. Bernie Madoff's fabricated trade confirmations had similar inconsistencies, numbers that didn't quite add up, dates that couldn't have happened, counterparties that didn't exist. Elizabeth Holmes's Theranos financial projections had shown the same statistical impossibilities, growth curves too smooth, variance too narrow, reality too convenient. She watches Dr. Kessler click to the next slide. Trading volume records, dates, times, counterparties. Her eyes scan the data like a hawk scanning a field, looking for the movement that doesn't belong. And there it is, the detail that turns everything on its head, the single data point that transforms a suspicious pattern into irrefutable proof. A trade dated March 15th, 2023, a Wednesday. The record shows execution at 3:47 p.m. Eastern through the Tokyo Stock Exchange. $200 million in currency derivatives. Yen futures, specifically, a complex instrument that requires real-time market access and institutional-grade execution. But Elena knows, as anyone with basic international market knowledge should know, that March 15, 2023 was vernal equinox day in Japan, Shunbun no Hai, a national holiday. The Tokyo Stock Exchange was closed. The markets were dark. No trades were executed. It's impossible. A trade that could not have happened. And if this trade is fabricated, how many others are? How much of Sterling Capital's entire track record is built on transactions that never occurred? Elena's hands tremble slightly as she refills a water glass. The magnitude of what she's seeing begins to crystallize. This isn't a minor accounting error. This is fraud. Massive systemic fraud. The kind that could represent billions in stolen money. Heinrich Weber. The documentation appears thorough, Mr. Sterling. The consortium is prepared to proceed with preliminary allocation discussions. Marcus Sterling. Excellent. I believe we can accommodate up to $2 billion in new capital this quarter. The returns will be identical to what you see here. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Another red flag. No legitimate fund manager guarantees returns. The word alone should have triggered alarm bells. But these men, brilliant in their own domains, are blinded by the promise of outsized gains. Elena watches the investors nod, watches them reach for their pens, their Mont Blancs and Cartiers, poised to sign documents that will seal the fate of millions. 400,000 German retirees who worked factory floors and hospital wards and school classrooms their entire lives, trusting their pensions to wise stewards. British Crown assets accumulated over centuries, representing a nation's heritage. Sovereign wealth from countries across the globe. Money that belongs to ordinary people who will never sit in rooms like this, but whose futures depend on what happens in them. And she knows. With terrible, crystalline certainty, she knows. These men, brilliant in their own domains, sophisticated in their understanding of markets and politics and power, are about to sign away billions to a fraud. And when it collapses, as all frauds eventually do, when the new money stops flowing and the lie can no longer sustain itself, the consequences will cascade through pension systems and retirement accounts and family savings across the globe. Teachers who won't be able to retire, factory workers whose golden years will turn to dust, families who trusted the system to protect them. Her mother's face flashes through her mind. Rosa Vasquez lying in a hospital bed at Mount Sinai, her body ravaged by disease, but her spirit unbroken. The bills that pile up on Elena's kitchen table, $47,000 this month, $52,000 the month before, $39,000 before that. The experimental treatment that might give her mother another year, another chance to see Elena succeed, to know that her sacrifices meant something. The $100 bill in her pocket could buy groceries for a month. The signing bonus these investors will pay Sterling could clear her mother's medical debt entirely. She could stay silent. Take the money, walk away. Let the fraud continue. Let the billions flow. Let the inevitable collapse destroy lives that aren't hers to protect. The invisible woman could remain invisible. No one would ever know what she saw, what she understood, what she allowed to happen. But her mother didn't raise her to be invisible. Rosa Vasquez worked 3 jobs to put her daughter through school, cleaning houses by day, washing dishes by night, sewing alterations on weekends. She believed in education like other people believe in religion. She believed that knowledge was power, that truth mattered, that doing right wasn't a choice but an obligation. Elena takes a deep breath. She thinks of her dissertation defense, the proudest day of her life, her mother clapping in the back row, tears streaming down her face. Mi hija brillante, she had whispered afterward, my brilliant daughter. She thinks of every professor who said she had a gift, every colleague who marveled at her models, every mentor who promised she would change the world. She thinks of every job application rejected, every interview that led nowhere. Every night she cried herself to sleep in her tiny apartment, wondering if her brilliance meant anything at all. It meant something. It means something. And sometimes, perhaps especially when it costs you everything, meaning demands courage. She straightens her uniform, sets down her tray on the mahogany sideboard, and walks toward the table where 8 of the world's most powerful men are about to make the biggest mistake of their careers. Her heels click against the marble floor, a steady rhythm, unhurried, unstoppable, the sound of truth approaching. Elena, excuse me. Her voice cuts through the conversation like a scalpel. 8 heads turn. The expressions range from confusion to irritation. Marcus Sterling's face darkens with something colder, the look of a man unaccustomed to interruption. Marcus Sterling, ice in his voice. Did I ask for something? Elena. No, sir. But before these gentlemen commit capital, there's something they should know. Sterling rises slowly, his height meant to intimidate. His 6'2" frame towers over Elena's 5'4", but she doesn't step back. Marcus. Sterling, I don't know what game you think you're playing, but I suggest you return to pouring water before you find yourself unemployed and unemployable. Elena, March 15th, 2023. Sterling's face flickers. Just for a moment, but Elena sees it. Dr. Kessler, still standing by the presentation screen, has gone pale. Marcus Sterling. What about it, Elena? Your presentation shows a trade executed that day at 3:47 p.m. through the Tokyo Stock Exchange. 200 million in currency derivatives. She walks to the screen, her movements calm and deliberate. The investors watch her with a mixture of confusion and grudging interest. Elena, Sion TD. March 15th, 2023, was vernal equinox day in Japan, a national holiday. The Tokyo Stock Exchange was closed. That trade couldn't have happened. Silence. Heinrich Weber leans forward, his Germanic precision suddenly engaged. Heinrich Weber. Is this true? Marcus Sterling, recovering. A clerical error, nothing more. The trade was executed through an alternative exchange. Dr. Kessler, explain. Kessler fumbles with the presentation, clicking through slides. His hands are shaking. Elena. There is no alternative exchange for that instrument class and in that time zone. The documentation specifies TSE explicitly. But that's not the only problem. She moves to the table, picks up one of the glossy prospectuses, pages through it with the confidence of someone who has spent years analyzing such documents. Elena Conti D, page 47. Portfolio allocation breakdown. The percentages sum to 97.3, not 100. In a legitimate fund, prospectus, one that's been reviewed by compliance, vetted by legal, certified by auditors, that error would be impossible. Basic arithmetic. The kind of thing an intern catches on first review, unless the document was assembled too quickly to check properly, unless the numbers were fabricated. Lord Rothbury flips to the page, his aristocratic composure cracking visibly. His finger traces down the column of numbers, his lips moving slightly as he adds them. His face goes pale. James Rothbury. Good Lord, she's absolutely right. 97.3. The other investors scramble for their copies. The sound of pages turning fills the room, a rustle of expensive paper and dawning comprehension. Elena. But the most telling indicator is the return distribution. Mr. Sterling's fund shows 15 years of consistent monthly returns between 2 and 3%. No down months, not one. The standard deviation is 0.17. Do you know what the statistical probability of that is, gentlemen? She pauses, letting the question hang in the air like a blade suspended above their heads. Marcus Sterling, through gritted teeth. Superior strategy. Historiques. Elena, 0.003%. Effectively impossible. Legitimate market returns follow normal distribution patterns with fat tails. They show volatility. They react to market conditions. What your presentation shows isn't superior intelligence, Mr. Sterling. It's fabrication. Sterling's face has gone red. His hands clench at his sides. Marcus Sterling. Who the hell are you? Elena. The peasant you told to keep the change. She pulls the $100 bill from her pocket, sets it on the table. Elena Conti. My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. I hold a PhD in financial economics from Columbia University. My dissertation was titled Behavioral Markers in Fraudulent Fund Management, a Statistical Framework for Detection. What I'm looking at right now is a textbook case of Ponzi scheme documentation. The room has gone utterly still. Sterling looks as if he's been struck. Elena Conti D. You're not generating returns, Mr. Sterling. You're paying old investors with new investor capital. The trades aren't real. The profits aren't real. And when the new money stops coming in, which it always does, everyone loses everything. Dr. Kessler, breaking, panic in his voice. Marcus, maybe we should postpone. Marcus Sterling. Shut up, Raymond. He turns back to Elena, his composure shattering. Marcus Sterling, Conti. This is slander, defamation. I'll have you destroyed. Do you have any idea who I am? What I can do? Elena. I know exactly who you are. You're a man who's been running a $14 billion fraud for 15 years. And I know exactly what you can do, which is nothing, because in about 30 seconds, these gentlemen are going to start making phone calls. Heinrich Weber has already taken out his phone. His face is granite. Heinrich Weber, into phone, German. Get me the Financial Supervisory Authority. Immediately. Sterling lunges for the phone. Two of the other investors stand to block him. The room has transformed. The power dynamics have completely inverted. The man who walked in like a king now looks like a cornered animal. Marcus Sterling, desperate now? This is a misunderstanding. One waitress with delusions of competence doesn't. James Rothbury, cold. A waitress with a doctorate who just identified 3 separate indicators of fraud in less than 2 minutes. Forgive me if I find her analysis more credible than your denials. Elena stands in the center of the room. The invisible woman. The peasant. The most powerful person in the room. The room has transformed into a command center. 3 of the investors are on simultaneous phone calls, to regulators in Frankfurt and London and Washington, to legal teams on retainer, to internal compliance officers being roused from sleep. The careful decorum of the evening has shattered entirely. Dr. Kessler sits in a corner, his head in his hands, already whispering about cooperation agreements and testimony, his loyalty to Sterling evaporating like morning mist. Marcus Sterling stands at the window, his reflection ghostly against the Manhattan skyline. A city of lights that once felt like his kingdom, now feeling more like a prison. The empire he built on lies is crumbling in real time. Each phone call, another crack in the foundation. His phone buzzes constantly. Calls from lawyers, from investors, from journalists who have somehow already caught wind of the evening's events. Calls he can no longer answer. Somewhere in Greenwich, at the headquarters of Sterling Capital Management, the SEC is already obtaining warrants. Computer servers are being seized. Bank accounts are being frozen. 2 plainclothes officers from the SEC Enforcement Division enter the room, their badges discreet but unmistakable. The restaurant manager hovers at the threshold, his face ashen, his hands trembling slightly. This was supposed to be a routine night, a prestigious dinner, generous gratuities, the quiet satisfaction of serving the powerful, not the unraveling of one of the largest financial frauds in American history. Officer Chen Marcus Sterling, Raymond Kessler, SEC Enforcement Division. You're both being detained pending investigation into securities, fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Sterling turns from the window. His face has aged 10 years and 30 minutes. Marcus Sterling, hollow. I want my attorney. Officer Chen, you'll have that opportunity. Let's go. As they lead Sterling toward the door, he passes Elena. He stops, looks at her with an expression caught between hatred and something else, something that might be awe. Marcus Sterling, quietly. How did you know? Elena. Because I've spent my life learning to see what people like you try to hide. They lead him out. The man who called her a peasant, who tossed money at her like she was nothing, reduced to a suspect in handcuffs, his $14 billion empire exposed as a house of cards. In the coming weeks, the investigation will reveal the full scope of the fraud. Over $11 billion in fabricated returns, thousands of victims across 3 continents, retirement funds decimated, family savings evaporated. The devastation prevented tonight by a waitress who refused to stay invisible would have doubled that number. The chaos has subsided. Most of the investors have departed to manage the crisis response. Heinrich Weber remains, along with Lord Rothbury and 1 other, a man who has been silent throughout the evening. Alexander Chen, 45, founder of Meridian Global Investments, $23 billion in legitimate assets, known for his methodical approach and his talent for identifying exceptional people. He has been watching Elena since she first spoke, watching with the careful attention of a man who built his fortune on recognizing value that others overlooked. Alexander Chen Dr. Vasquez. Elena turns. She's still in her waitress uniform. The absurdity of it strikes her suddenly. She's just dismantled a multi-billion-dollar fraud while wearing a black apron. Alexander Chen, Con TD. May I ask, how does someone with your qualifications end up serving wine at a restaurant? Elena meets his eyes. She's tired of hiding, tired of pretending. Elena. The job market collapsed 3 months before I finished my doctorate. I applied to 400 positions, got 17 interviews, 0 offers. Meanwhile, my mother was diagnosed with stage 3 pancreatic cancer. The insurance wouldn't cover the experimental treatment that might have given her more time. I took the first job that paid cash. She pauses. Chen's expression has shifted. No longer curious, but something deeper. Recognition, perhaps. Understanding. Elena, Conti. I've been working here for 2 years, paying off medical debt at a rate that means I'll be free of it by the time I'm 53. Unless something changes. Alexander Chen. Your mother, Elena, still fighting. The treatment, the one I couldn't afford. There's a clinical trial now. She qualified. She's responding. But the bills from before, She doesn't. Finish. She doesn't need to. Heinrich Weber, approaching, Dr. Vasquez. On behalf of the Rhineland-Westphalen Consortium, I must thank you. You have saved 400,000 people from catastrophic loss. What you did tonight, the courage it required, I have rarely witnessed such a thing. James Rothbury. The Crown Estate's gratitude as well. Good Lord, if we had invested, the headlines alone would have been devastating. You've done the Crown a tremendous service. Elena nods, uncomfortable with the praise. She didn't do it for gratitude. She did it because it was right. Alexander Chen, Dr. Vasquez. I'd like to continue this conversation, but not here, not like this. He hands her a card, simple, elegant, just a name and a phone number. Alexander Chen, Con TD. Tomorrow, my office, whenever you're ready. Elena sits across from Alexander Chen in an office that occupies the entire 60th floor of a midtown tower. The space is different from what she expected, not ostentatious but warm, thoughtfully curated, art that she recognizes immediately. A small Rothko, all orange and red and burning emotion. A Basquiat sketch, raw and vital. A photograph by Sebastião Salgado of workers in a gold mine, their faces illuminated by the very wealth they excavate. A man who collects beauty with conscience. A man who thinks about power and those who wield it. She's wearing her own clothes today. Not borrowed, not secondhand, but her own. Simple, professional. A navy blazer she bought during her doctoral program, when she still believed she'd be presenting at conferences and meeting with investment firms. The first interview outfit she's put on in 2 years. It still fits. It still feels like armor. Alexander Chen. I spent last night reading your dissertation, all 347 pages. Downloaded it from Columbia's archive. Elena, surprised. You read the whole thing, Alexander Chen, twice. The statistical framework you developed for detecting fraudulent fund documentation. It's brilliant. The behavioral markers analysis, the distribution modeling, the red flag taxonomy. If this had been widely adopted 5 years ago, Sterling would have been caught before he hit his first billion. Elena doesn't know what to say. No one has read her dissertation except her committee. No one in the industry wanted to hear about fraud detection, until now. Alexander Chen, Sion TD. I'm creating a new division at Meridian, due diligence and forensic analysis. We vet every investment opportunity, not just the numbers, but the people, the patterns, the probability models. I want you to run it, Elena. Run it, Alexander Chen, Chief Analytics Officer, full executive authority, your own team, your own budget, complete independence in methodology. He slides a folder across the desk. Elena opens it. The number at the bottom of the compensation page makes her hands shake. Alexander Chen, Con TD, 850,000 base, plus performance bonuses tied to successful fraud prevention, full benefits, signing bonus of 200,000. Elena stares at the numbers. The signing bonus alone would eliminate her mother's medical debt. The salary would transform her life entirely. Elena, I have conditions. Alexander Chen, amused. Of course you do. Name them. Elena, full access to all investment documentation before any commitment is made. No overrides from senior management. If my team identifies fraud, the deal stops. No exceptions, no matter how much money is involved or whose feelings get hurt. Alexander Chen Dunn. Elena and I want to establish a scholarship fund, named after my mother, for students from underrepresented backgrounds pursuing graduate degrees in financial analysis. Funded by Meridian, administered by Columbia. Chen's smile broadens. He'd expected the professional demands, the independence, the authority, the ethical safeguards. People of Elena's caliber always know their worth. The scholarship catches him off guard in the best way. Not a demand for more money, more power, more prestige. A demand to build something that would outlast them both. Alexander Chen, the Rosa Vasquez Scholars Program. We'll endow it with $5 million to start, enough to support 20 students through their graduate studies each year, and we'll grow it annually. It's tied to company performance. The better we do, the more students we support. Elena's breath catches. Rosa. Her mother's name. The woman who cleaned houses and washed dishes so her daughter could study, who believed in education like other people believe in miracles, who lies in a hospital bed, fighting for every breath, but refusing to give up. A legacy that will outlast both of them. Students who might otherwise be forced to serve wine, while their brilliance goes unnoticed, given the chance to shine. Elena. Then I accept. Chen stands, extends his hand across the mahogany desk. Elena takes it. The handshake seals more than a job offer. It seals the transformation of an invisible woman into one of the most powerful analysts in global finance. It seals the vindication of every sleepless night, every rejection letter, every moment of doubt. Alexander Chen. Welcome to Meridian, Dr. Vasquez. I have a feeling you're going to change this industry. Elena. That's the plan.